I live in Austria, but my dad is from Brazil. All my Austrian aunts and uncles married a Brazilian. My grandparents from my mother's side opened and lead a factory of our family company in Brazil. That's why everyone was there, but some eventually came back to Austria, just like my mom with my dad. Me and my siblings were raised multilingual, but lived most of our life in Austria. So once when I was around 10, my mom and me were on a tram in Vienna with my little brother, who was around 2 at the time, in a stroller, and he starts crying really loudly. Then one Brazilian lady starts speaking really loudly and in an obnoxious tone something in the lines of, "Well, these European folks don't know how to treat their children with love. How can someone be so cold and unaffectionate to a child as to let them scream without taking them out of the stroller and holding them?" We were standing BTW. There was no seat big enough at the time where we could leave the stroller, so I was getting worried we were doing something wrong. I wanted to comfort my brother and get him out, but my mom stopped me and really loudly said in Portuguese, "Leave him. It is too dangerous to take him out of the stroller while we are standing here and the tram is moving." You could see the woman's face go from red to white and back to red, get up and get out so fast at the next exit that we just started laughing, and my brother ultimately calmed down. Not really exciting, but I find it funny when I think back. I've posted this on other threads before, but I think it fits here. I lived in Japan when I was little and retook Japanese in college, so I didn't sound like a child when I spoke. To solidify my new language skills, I went to my hometown for about 6 weeks a summer in college. It was a small town, so most people remembered me or my family, but some people I stayed with, 6 weeks, 11 families that at least wanted me to spend a night in their home, were new to the area since we left 15 years or so earlier. One of these families had a high school aged son who wanted to borrow me for his high school's international festival. No problem. I'd go and let other high schoolers practice their English with me and do carnival games and stuff. However, the guy apparently did not get the message that I spoke Japanese and proceeded to introduce me to all his friends as his girlfriend. I let him have his moment for the night without leading him on, but on the train ride back to his home, he was talking to his friend in Japanese and I joined in on the conversation. Also in Japanese. The embarrassment on his face was worth knowing. All his friends thought I was his girlfriend. I was a Mexican living in Germany with a Chinese school-assigned roommate. He claimed to not speak any English and my German wasn't good, so we weren't able to communicate. My German roommate then claimed he told them he didn't speak any German, so I gather he was antisocial. I took 3 years of Mandarin in high school, but I didn't try using it on him. About 3 months in, he and another Chinese student got off the bus at the same stop I did, and we all walked together to our flat. Heard him talking about me and his friend laughing but held back. Once we got to our flat, I opened the door and told them to please enter in Chinese. I still remember his shocked face. His friend later complimented my Chinese, while a few weeks later my roommate claimed my Chinese was so bad that he couldn't understand me. I seriously think he just wanted no contact with me, possibly because he never followed the cleaning schedule. I'll try to simplify this for non-poker players, but just know that 8 beat 7s. I was in Detroit and playing cards for a little higher stakes than I'm used to, and this obnoxious group of Lebanese guys come to throw their money around. They weren't good at all, just bet big and bluffed a lot. I took a stand with pocket 8s and ran into a flop of 4 10-jewel rainbow. I called a big preflop raise of $50, 4 ways, and you shoves all in for $450 more. Everyone folded around to me, and I think for a bit. His friend asked what he has against the rules in Arabic against another rule, and he answers Saba Saba, which means 7 to 7. I look up and say call and tell him shukran, thank you, in Arabic. I'm Asian, so it was obviously unexpected. The table erupts in laughter and he actually was a good sport about it. He got roasted by his friends for the rest of the night and most of the people there just ended up taking their money anyway. Happened to my wife when she worked at McDonald's. She looks a little on the Asian side, but is from Guatemala. Group of Spanish speaking people pay at the drive-thru and try shortchanging her. Driver says he samalda to China, no safe can't to that damn Asian lady can't count. Wife takes the money and very politely says they are short in Spanish. driver turns red, while passengers couldn't stop laughing. When I was in Romania, as a Hungarian, I went to buy some food in a small town. I didn't know people in the restaurant were ethnic Hungarians, so when I asked for my food in English, the guy shouted a burger for this effer in Hungarian to the kitchen. I was curious how it would end, so I pretended I didn't understand. When he got me my food and asked for double the price, I said, now in Hungarian, look, dude, you can give me that for normal price, or I'm leaving it, but I sure as hell ain't coming back to UMFS ever again. My husband grew up in multiple countries, and, though his English is pretty heavily accented, it's a sort of unidentifiable hybrid of all the countries where he learned it in school. He didn't move to the US until he was in his late 20s. When we went for our wedding rings, and in walks super white me and my very Latino looking, then, Finna K. It's a tiny little shop and the two proprietors begin to talk amongst themselves in Hebrew, one of my husband's first languages, about how much they should charge. The first says, it should be at least $650. The second says, tell him it will be $700 at least, maybe $750. I can try that. My husband says, in Hebrew, but with a smile, I'll give you $500. They just froze, and everyone laughed, and we went into a more open negotiation. We paid $600 and I think everyone was happy. I was in New York, and entered one of those electronic stores. I asked the price of an item in English. The guy at the counter turns to another guy who on a ladder stocking items, and asks in Hebrew how much he should charge. I speak Hebrew, so I'm following their dialogue. The guy on the ladder looks at me and notices that I'm following them with my eyes. Then he switches to Arabic. I don't speak Arabic. The counter guy tells me the price in English. I say too expensive in Hebrew and leave. I actually have a reverse story. I had to act as if I didn't speak a language. I was going back home after having studied for a while in Uppsala, Sweden, and during the time I spent there, I had the occasion to learn quite a lot of Swedish. Anyways, to go back home, I had to buy a train ticket to Arlanda airport from Uppsala Central to get to my flight, which was really early in the morning, and I did so, but bought my ticket with the company Society of Jesus, Statens Järnvägar. However, the first train that arrived at the station and that was going to the airport was Aral, a Planslökolltrafik, different company, train which I did not buy a ticket for. Worried that I would be late to the airport, I still took the train thinking that they almost never check the tickets, and thinking that my ticket might actually work for that company as well. Well, they did check that day. The controller asks me in Swedish to see the ticket. So I hand it to him, and he looks at me and says in Swedish, wrong ticket. So I decide to do the dumb tourist and I pointed to my passport and said in bad French accent, sorry, I don't speak Swedish, and I explained that I thought this ticket was the right one to go to the airport. He immediately gave me my ticket back and said that it was okay, but to check next time to buy the right ticket with the right company in English. So I got off without any fine or anything like that because I faked not being able to speak Swedish. I still feel bad about it today. If the controller that met me that day is readying this, I just want to say, Takoch FRL. Some workers at an airport restaurant were saying very inappropriate things about my sister in Spanish. The women were criticizing her appearance, arguing with the men, who were saying very inappropriate observations about what she was wearing and what they would do to her. I ordered in Spanish. Workers all went silent and looked stunned. I asked detailed questions about the food/menu in Spanish so that they understood I knew everything they were saying. I gave her my credit card, but she never swiped it, and a $40 airport meal was free. So at the end of the day it was a win. I only speak one language, but was training this guy on it till a few years ago, and there were two French girls chatting in French and suddenly he got a huge smile and said mercy to the girls. One burst out laughing, and the other one turned bright red. Turned out she was talking about how hot she found him. I'm born to Russian immigrants. Whenever my family and I travel abroad, we almost exclusively speak Russian and tend to get better attitudes from people when they don't think we are American tourists. When I was 12 or so, we were in a cafe in Belgium and a large group of 20-something guys walk in. My dad gets a worried look on his face, drops his voice, and says we are Americans right now. He explained to me later that they were Chechen gang members at the time when Chechnya was at war with Russia and anti-Russian I've said this before. It happened a while ago. I went to a psychiatric emergency ward once and asked for help and if they were comfortable to speak English. I understand Danish, but have a hard time making myself understandable in it and didn't really feel like an idiot at a crucial time of my life. I stayed there for 4 days without anyone realizing I knew what they were saying about me right in front of me. 2 of the nurses thought I was cute. 1 doctor thought I was lying all the time. A patient thought I was a spy for the staff. A lot happened in those 4 days. It made my stay way more enjoyable than it should have been. My wife is Indian and her family speaks Gujarati. I've spent many years trying to pick it up and have found it to be very difficult as there are no great resources that I'm aware of to learn it. You just have to listen and try to guess the context. Anyway, over the years I've gotten pretty good, and when my wife's aunt was visiting from India she went right into my wife about how much weight I'd gained and how bad my diet must be. I understood every word and stopped her about 2 minutes into her rant. Turns out it didn't stop her from continuing.